Hello everyone, and welcome to the second CAD Builder training video relating to the door module. And on the first video, we went over the general menus involved in making your door constructions, be they for the CNC, for the cut list, for 5-piece. In this video, we'll go with a specific example, how you can set up, say, something like a shaker 5-piece construction, and then how you can apply different rails, different profiles to get the door construction that you need. All right, so doors are going to be made in the door catalog module. So we'll go over to the main control panel and click door catalog. On the left side of the screen, you have the different sub modules that make up this module. So doors and drawers, this is where the constructions are stored. Profiles will allow you to make custom profiles for those 5-piece doors. And rails will allow you to create custom rail shapes for 5-piece doors. Since we're just building a standard shaker door, we will just stick with no profiles and no rails. So we'll go over to the doors submodule, and when we look at this menu, the left side of the screen has the categories of door constructions. Clicking on a category will show you the list in the middle of the screen. Right now I don't have any, so let's create a new one by going to the top center of the screen and then clicking create. You first select the type of technology that you would like to use. In this case, we're going to use a 5-piece construction, and then we enter the name of this new door. We're going to go with sample shaker door, and we can input the description here if need be. We click OK. There's our new construction entry, and its attributes will show up on the right side of the screen. We can either name it, we can change its technology type, we can attach description, tags. When we're ready to move forward, we go to the door editor menu. This menu will look very similar to the general cabinet wireframe menu. So on the left side of the screen, you have a list of all the parts that make up the cabinet, along with the construction method used at the top, which in this case is the technology of the door. In the middle of the screen, you have a 3D rendering of the construction that you have thus far, which you can rotate by left-clicking and dragging, or right-clicking and dragging, and zoom in, zoom out using your mouse wheel. At the bottom of the center column, you have 3 sliders. One that allows you to view this door in full transparency or full opaque or anything in between, along with 2 sliders that allow you to change the dimensions of the door to see what it looks like in different widths and different heights. At the top of the screen, you have the View 3D mode, which just shows you this view, whereas the door layout is similar to the front sections or inside sections in that it allows you to change the individual elements that make up the cabinet, change their parameters, change their sizes, change their order, and also allows you to create new mid-styles or mid-rails in the construction. Clicking on anything within the 3D view will show its options in the right side of the screen. So if you click on individual elements, their general dimensions will appear here, but if you want to change global attributes, you would click on the composite element itself, so the door itself, sample shaker door. All right, so let's go parameter by parameter and build what we need it to be. The first section will be the SKU of the door, so what name will the door be addressed by, both in your global options and in your reports. And we'll stick with sample shaker door. Below this is the dimensions section, so this will act similar to the sliders at the bottom. They're there so you can numerically enter a dimension and see how the construction will adapt. Next, we have the description field. If you like to edit that field, we'll keep it empty for now. And then below this, you have the door frame attributes, the door frame widths and how are they going to be joined together. So let's say the top rail size is going to be 2.5, bottom rail size is 2.5, mid rail size is 2.5. Same for the left style, for the right style, and for the mid style. And we'll just use this as the general construction of these shaker doors. And then below this, you have the joinery to be used with the doors. So if you select none, then they'll be butt jointed together and no additional dimensions will be changed in your construction cut list. If you change it to miter, then they'll be mitered together. If you change it to mortise and tenon, then you tell CAD Builder the frame style and rail inset. That is, how far do these rails go inside the stiles? So when you do this, it won't be visually represented in this particular editor, but it will affect your cut list. So for example, if I say have this inset be 3/8 of an inch, then the rail size will have an extra 3/8 added to them when it comes to their length per each side, right? So 3/8 from the left, 3/8 from the right, to a total of 3/4 inch extra length. Below the frame parts, we have the door panel section, where you choose the type of panel to be used and their parameters. You can do either a raised panel, which means you can apply a profile onto it. You can do a flat panel, which will make it flat. You can do a glass panel for glass material, or none at all, so it will just be the frame parts of the cabinet, or the cabinet door. We'll choose flat in this case, since we're going with a standard shaker. And flat panels have two parameters. One would be the panel recess. This is defined as the distance from the front of the frame to the front of the center panel. So for example, if I set this to 0, it'll be flush all the way to the front. If I set it to something like 1/4 inch, then we have 1/4 inch distance right over here. And then we have the panel inset. Panel inset determines how far that center panel will go within the frame parts that surround it. Very similar to the frame rail and style inset, except this will apply to all dimensions of the center panel. For example, if I have the right style hidden from view from now, right now it's set by default to 1/4 inch. So if I change this to 3/8 inch, we can see that change the center panel more inside the door frame themselves. All right, I will bring the right style back into view, and we'll keep going to the next section. Beaded allows you to add a fluted profile to the center panel. Since we're sticking with standard shaker, for now we will leave this off. And then you get to the door options section, the first parameter being buyout door. Buyout door, this is something you would check on if you're going to be buying the door from an external source. So you don't need a cut list for it, or you don't need to send it to the CNC. So since we're looking for a cut list, we're going to check this off. CNC processing applies to door styles and the technologies that you can send over to the CNC. By default, this is turned off for 5-piece. You can also apply a banding to the outside parts of the door, to the frame parts. Since we're going to say that we're using some solid wood, so for now we'll just say apply banding off. And then you choose the grain direction. If you want a horizontal grain, you check the horizontal grain box on. If it is not, uncheck the box, and the change will be made for the center panel. We're going to say it's vertical grain, so unchecking horizontal grain. And then you get to the profiles section. This is where you can apply those cross-sectional profiles in 3 spots for 5-piece. One would be to the edges of the frame parts, so that would be the door edge profile. Another would be at the edges of the center panel, which would be the door edge profile. And another would be in the inner parts of the frame parts, which would be the frame internal edge profile. We're going to stick with standard shaker, so no profile added, but you would use these two, for example, when you're doing a raised panel construction of some sort. Generally speaking, people will make a profile into the frame parts and another into the center panel. And when they're joined together, it looks like a raised panel. Or you might do a door edge if you have an edge profile applied with a router table. But for now, we'll keep it at a default empty profile. And then you get to the rails profile. So if you want a rounded rails or some other custom rail shape, you can set this here. We're sticking with standard shaker 5-piece, so we'll leave this empty. And then at the bottom here, you have replacements. Replacements allows you to set threshold for this door construction, so that when it breaches those thresholds, either when the door gets too big or too small, in either width or height, then it will be replaced by a different construction style. So let's look at how we might set that up. Let's go ahead and we're done with the parameters, general parameters of this door. So we'll go ahead and save this door construction. And then we go back to the list of door constructions, and we will take this door and make a copy of it. So we select the door from the entry and we click on copy. And let's name this new door sample shaker narrow door. And then we open the door editor. When it gets to small enough dimensions, let's say sub 8 inches, the center panel is not going to have too much space left over. Sub 8 or 7 inches, the center panel might not have too much space available to it, and you might want to then make those end styles smaller just to keep an appropriate look, especially when it comes to drawer fronts. How would you be able to do that while still using a single door construction? Well, we make this copy construction, have the end styles, let's say the left style be 1.5 inch instead, and then the right style be 1.5 inch. When it gets narrow enough, we'll save this door construction. Then we go back to our sample shaker door. We go to the replacements section and we say, when the width of the door is less than 7 inches, choose this replacement door style by clicking on this button here and selecting the door construction from the door collection. So we're looking for the sample shaker narrow door. And then we save this door construction. So that way, when you apply this construction method within a design, when doors get to 7 or below, this sample shaker narrow door construction will take over. And then you may want to do the same for height less than, or width more than, or height more than, where you might want to narrow the rails, or you might want to apply new mid styles or mid rails in between. So let's go ahead and make those replacements for this door. Let's say when it gets short enough, we want the mid rails to be narrow instead. So once again, we make another copy. Sample shaker door. This time we'll do short door. And we'll make it so that the top rail will be 1.5. Bottom rail will be 1.5. We save this door construction and apply it for the height less than parameter. So for height less than 7 inches, go ahead and replace it with sample shaker short door. And we save this door construction. All right, now we have just 2 basic replacements. We can have replacements within replacements as well. So for example, if a narrow door eventually gets to also be very short and you want the rails to also be shortened, in that case, you can go within that door style and make some further replacements. And we'll dedicate a video of how you might want to do that. But for now, we'll stick with just these 2 basic replacements. All right, we have our door construction. The next step will be to create the door assignment, which will tell CAD Builder what material to use for what part of the door. This will be found under Materials Assignment module. So we go back to the main control panel listing. We click on Material Assignment and we choose the door construction material assignment. You're given a door template, which you may rename, you may copy it, you can delete it, but let's create one from scratch. So we'll click Create. Let's name it Sample Door Assignment. Click OK. There's our sample door assignment, and we make our assignments on the right. For the 5-piece door frame, we'll assign some hardboard material, some solid wood. Let's go with something like 3/4 inch solid alder. And then for our door panels, you choose the category in which the center panel falls under. In this case, we're looking for the flat panel. Let's say we use 1/2 inch MDF for that. Since we give it a 3/4 inch recess, 1/2 inch MDF, we just set it flush on the back of the door. So we go to panel stock, we go to 1/2 inch MDF and have it assigned. Let's test this now. I'm going to take the construction we just made, create the global option for it, apply it onto a door, and we can see the result. So I'll go to my catalog section. I will choose my sample catalog, edit catalog. I go up top to create global options. And I enable the upper door construction, and I'm going to clear everything and just use the sample shaker door I just created. Save for my lower door construction, clear all, use the sample shaker door, and drawer front construction, we haven't made one yet, so I'll disable that for now. And then I go to my door assignment and enable the sample door assignment that I created. Global options are set. Let's go ahead and bring in a cabinet and see the results. So I'm going to go to Build Materials, select the sample catalog, bring in a wall cabinet. It won't matter the dimensions of it for now. And then we apply these 3 global options. So now when I click on this cabinet, brings us to the construction of the cabinet. So we have our door with the standard 2.5-inch rails. Let's see how it will react to the different dimensions. So if I set it to a width of 6 inches, that will fall under the narrow threshold. So when we set it, we can see the end stiles have been narrowed down. Let's set it back to the normal width. What about the height? If I set it to 6 inches, we should see the end rails shortened down to 1.5-inch width as well. So the replacements are working as intended. Now, what if you would like to make it so that when both of these are a certain short dimension, then both the rails and the stiles get shortened? And this is where that replacement within replacement will take effect. So what I would do is this. I would go to my door catalog. I would make a copy of either the short or narrow door. I would make it small on, I'll make it a sample shaker, short and narrow style. And then I would define the top rails and bottom rails along with the end stiles all to be that 1.5-inch that I need. And now we can place this replacement within the other two replacements. So when it gets to a narrow door and then the height is less than 7 inches, replace this with the sample shaker short and narrow, and do the same to the sample shaker short door. When the width is less than 7, replace it with the sample shaker short and narrow as well. So that way, normal doors will be like this, 2.5-inch rails and stiles. When it gets to narrow, this will take effect. When it gets to short, this will take effect. When it's both short and narrow, this will take effect. Let's test this out. So we'll go back to our cabinet. We'll go to its wireframe. We make it narrow. We see this effect. We make it short. We see the rails are narrower. And then we make it both short and narrow. And now both the end stiles and the end rails are 1.5 each. Now that we have the replacements working, let's check a test cut list. Let's say that this cabinet is 20 inches by 20 inches in width and height. And the door will be the same size since the overlay was set to full overlay with no reveals. What would be the cut list? Well, we can see the cut list generated from this by going over to the reports, clicking on the cabinet cut list report, and filtering out specifically the door parts. And let's view all the materials here. We start with the door flat panel, so that's the panel in the middle. Each dimension is going to be the same. So with a standard 2.5-inch rails and stiles, there would be 20 inches minus 2.5 minus 2.5, which is 15. But then we have an inset amount of 3/8 on either side, which would then add to the 15 on both sides to make it 15 3/4. So the size is 15 3/4 by 15 3/4, which checks out. The stiles will be the height of the door, which would be 20. So we see that the length checks out here, and then the width is 2.5 by standard. But then the rails will be the distance, the width minus the widths of the stiles, which would make it 20 minus 2.5 minus 2.5, which gets us to 15. And then they too will inset into the stiles additional 3/8 on both sides, which if we do 3/8 times 2, being 3/4, added to the 15 of the main length of the rail, adds to 15 3/4 length, which checks out here and here as well. And the same will apply to all the other door constructions that we make with this sample shaker door. Now, what if we want to add profiles? What if we want to change the rail sizes? What if we want to add additional mid stiles, mid rails? This will be covered in an upcoming video. I will see you then. Thank you. Have a good day.